Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. A little bit of a different setup today because I am reviewing a product that's a little bit bigger than the things I usually do. This one's not a phone this time, it's actually a laptop. So what we have here is an original, first ever 2006 MacBook Pro. If you guys have seen my other videos, you know that I love old tech. I think old tech is definitely underrated and technology lasts a lot longer than we give it credit for. This laptop is almost 20 years old. I am not expecting it to be usable in any modern capacity, but we'll give it a try. We'll see if it can actually do anything. So how did I get this MacBook Pro? Well, fun fact, this is actually my MacBook Pro from high school. Yes, I was in high school in 2006. Don't call me an unk in the comments. I'll delete them. I'm just kidding. I honestly don't care. I got this MacBook Pro in high school and I was really into video production at the time. That was kind of my thing. I was in a bunch of video production classes. I was making YouTube videos at the time. Don't even bother looking for them because you won't find them. They're long gone. But this kind of kicked off my video production career. So this has a lot of history and it's a very special machine, at least to me. As for pricing, I'll go ahead and throw up the original pricing on the screen here. I want to say it was $1,600 in 2006. I believe this is like the base MacBook Pro. I don't think I paid for any kind of upgrades because I didn't have the money for that at the time. So as far as I know, this is a very, very base machine, but I will try to get that information to you guys if I can actually get this to load. So going over the exterior of this, I'll compare this to my modern MacBook Air in a little bit, just so you guys can see the crazy difference between the two of these machines. But holding it up to this camera over here, this is a thick boy. This is probably like 1.5 inches thick. It is not light. Kind of crazy when you think about it, just how far we've come. So we've got our ports over here and not a USB-C port in sight. These are all much older ports. Some of these I couldn't even tell you what they do. I believe that is a Thunderbolt port. That's USB, obviously. Ethernet over here. I don't know what that is. I think that might have been a proprietary port. I have no idea. And then this one was for displays, but I don't know the name of that port because I can't tell you the last time I saw a machine that had that port on it, aside from this one. It's heavy. And something you'll notice when I get to the bottom of this here is it doesn't have a battery. And that's because the battery on this guy died a very long time ago. With these MacBook Airs, you could actually open them up and replace components. It had a removable battery. Man, I wish modern Macs had removable batteries. That'd be great. It'd be so convenient. Yeah, so this one had a removable battery and the batteries were expensive, and eventually it got to the point where I couldn't buy a battery for this anymore. After a few years or so of using it. I think I used this altogether for maybe like 8 years. Yeah, eventually I just couldn't find batteries for it at that point. So I took the battery out so it wouldn't further degrade or explode or anything weird like that. No original battery with this thing. I don't have any plans to get a replacement because honestly, I don't think this machine is usable at this point, but we'll see. Yeah, so the battery would have gone right here. And if I flip this over, I wonder if I can read. Okay, there are some specs here. You guys ready for this? 2.2 gigahertz Core Duo. No way. 2 gigabytes of RAM, it looks like. / 128 megabytes of VRAM. Interesting. 120 gig hard drive at 5,400 RPM. Believe it or not, the hard drive in this thing still works. I don't know how, but it's got like an actual spinning hard drive and it still works almost 20 years later. I don't know how that's possible. And at the top here, I don't know if you guys can see this, we have some text. I'm just gonna go ahead and read this to you. So it says, designed by Apple in California, assembled in China. Oh, no. Model number 81226. Here is the rear of it. You can can see the hinge, and everything is aluminum. It's not unibody aluminum. They were not doing that for laptops at the time. It's not as sturdy as modern MacBooks, but it still feels pretty good. It was definitely ahead of the curve for 2006, 2007. On this side, we've got the MagSafe charging port. I believe this MacBook was the first ever to have MagSafe charging. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But we've got the charger on the floor over there. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. Another USB over here. We've got I don't know what that port is. I think that might be a microphone port. Headphone jack over there. I don't know what this is. If somebody knows, I never used this port, so I couldn't tell you. And you'll notice, flipping it around the sides here, you can actually see the screws. So we've got exposed screws, very unlike Apple, but this is how they did things at the time. And again, this was a laptop that you were able to open up and work on yourself, I believe. So that was their philosophy at the time. So now that we've gone over this part of it, let's get this thing opened up here. So 2006 MacBook Pro, here we go. Ta-da! There it is, guys, in all its glory. And I did try to clean this thing up as much as I possibly could. After almost 20 years of on and off use, it's seen better days. Haven't we all? Here it is. Silver as far as the eyes can see. All of this is aluminum. The screen surround, this part's aluminum. This inlay here surrounding the keyboard, all aluminum, the speakers and everything. The keyboard is silver and it is backlit, which is extremely cool. I'd love to see silver keys make a comeback, because not only does it look cool, but these feel really good. They're very cushy. Can you guys hear this? Let me get some ASMR for you guys. Really good sounding keys. And another thing you'll notice here is the size of the trackpad. So this trackpad is extremely small. It doesn't click or anything like that. I don't think it had any kind of force feedback back then. And the buttons down here still feel pretty good. They're very tactile. Definitely a far cry from modern MacBooks, that is for sure. And you'll notice around the edges here, this is actually plastic. I think they did this for durability. It's got that around the screen as well, the top lid. It's aluminum surrounded by a little plastic rail. And you can see a couple spots on here where I dropped it or hit it with something. The battle scars are still here. And one thing I really loved about this machine was the power button. The power button is so cool. It's kind of like knurled a little bit. It's solid aluminum and it's got a great feel to it. It kind of feels like a luxury car with a push to start button. It's got that nice heavy feel to it. And when you press it, you just know like you're the man. And the keyboard itself, it seems pretty small by today's standards. At the time, I think this was huge. So this is 15 inches if I'm not mistaken. So it is a big computer in dimensions and in weight. You got the little MacBook Pro logo down there. Again, this was the first ever MacBook Pro. So freaking cool. We've got the iSight camera up there at the top. I couldn't tell you the megapixels on that. I have no idea, to be perfectly honest. I can't imagine it was more than like 1 or 2 megapixels. And the hinge on this is really unique. So let me try to show you guys this. Unlike the modern MacBooks that have magnets, which I'll show you guys in a little bit here, this one actually had a closing clasp. So it's got a button and it does use magnets. Let me try to show this in slow motion here. So you can see when I get it close enough down here, the hinges actually come out. It's got 2 little hooks. So those hooks get in there and keep it closed. It's pretty sturdy. You can tell on the sides here that it doesn't close completely flat. I don't know if that's something that just happened over time with age or if it was always like that. I can't remember back that far. When you click it, it opens up. So again, Apple doesn't do closing hinge mechanisms like that anymore, but that was pretty standard for the time. And another thing we've got on this part here is the disk drive. And disk drives were very, very standard for 2006. We still had a lot of programs that came on CD-ROMs. Playing games and stuff was all done through CD-ROMs. It was just starting to get to the point where you would download things, but even Mac OS at the time was done strictly through CDs. And I believe this did get Snow Leopard, which was the first OS X that came through a digital download. I remember going through the process of doing that on this machine and thinking like, wow, this is the future. It really is, because we're still doing it about 20 years later. Here we have a comparison that no one ever has thought to make. We've got an M2 MacBook Air and the original 2006 MacBook Pro. How do these two machines stack up? They're extremely different. For one, the MacBook Air is very thin and light, and this looks like a complete dinosaur next to it. Size comparison first. Let's go ahead and do just a basic size lineup here. So you can see with all the extra space over here, a 13-inch machine is much smaller than a 15-inch machine. Wow, I know, but we can go ahead and do a size comparison. I'm not gonna drop these because these are valuable. We've got the side of them here. Obviously, the MacBook Air is like, you could probably fit 3 MacBook Airs in this MacBook Pro. It really looks like the past compared to the future right here. I don't know how else you could really like drive that point home. These look like machines from 2 completely different eras, which they are. And just having both of these side by side is like incredible. It's amazing to see how far tech has come, because a lot of times, you guys, especially with tech like phones, it's easy to think that things aren't changing year after year. Buy it when you need it. You probably don't need the latest thing every single year, so you don't need to go out and get the latest thing every single year. If you upgrade like once every 3, 4, 5 generations, you're going to notice a huge difference, and you're probably going to enjoy that product a lot more than if you upgraded every single year. All right, so let's open these guys up, compare them that way. And again, we've got the antiquated hinge on the MacBook Pro. With the MacBook Air, it's a little bit easier. It's all magnetic. Just put your finger here, you open it up. There we go. All right, so screens side by side here. You notice that with the MacBook Air, there's virtually no bezel. Obviously, you know, there's the black bezel around the screen, but there's no big aluminum bezel like we're seeing on the original MacBook Pro here. So obviously looks much more modern. Black keys, silver keys, and you can tell that over time there's definitely a shift in how Apple decided to utilize the space on MacBooks, especially from the interior. So not only are the screens pushed to the very edges here, but keyboard layout is vastly different. The keys are actually more spaced out on the MacBook Air, and yet the keyboard is much bigger on the Air than the Pro. And that, of course, has a lot to do with the fact that the speakers are internal in the hinge here, so they're tucked away, versus the speakers on the MacBook Pro are front and center. The keys on the Air are pushed right out to the edge. They're very comfortable to type on, very good typing position. With this one, yes, it has an absolutely gigantic place to rest your wrists, but at the same time, how much space do you really need? Because you can rest your wrists on this Air and be completely fine with it. The touchpad, I feel like I'm looking at historical tech here and alien tech on the left. It's crazy. So the trackpad has to be at least twice the size of the trackpad on the original MacBook Pro. It's a joke. And of course, it's also extremely responsive. It's made out of glass. It's a great experience. Honestly, it's like interacting with an iPhone, basically, but on your MacBook. And while the MacBook Air doesn't have an extremely cool power button like the MacBook Pro does, it does have the Touch ID sensor built into the power button, which is extremely convenient. And you can even use your Apple Watch to unlock it, which is a goated feature. Love that. So now that we've made one of the weirdest laptop comparisons of all time, let's go ahead and try to get the MacBook Pro powered on and see if it can actually do anything.